Okay, everybody, thanks for joining us today. My name is Will Penney. I'm in Ohio. I'm a realtor. And today we've got John Gualtieri, who's a business coach. He's been in the business since 1987. He had the #1 RE/MAX team in Philadelphia for a long time. He's been my business coach since 2008. John only coaches I shouldn't have said he's mine because now it'll let the cat out of the bag, but he only coaches agents that are selling at least $20+ million a year or netting over $500,000 a year. So he sticks with successful agents. We also have Bobby Johnson on here. He's in Santa Rosa Beach, Florida. He's a luxury agent. Bobby's been in the business since 1999, and he single-handedly, with one other partner, sells about $70 to $80 million worth of real estate a year. So we've got a really good group on here. I sell about $40 million worth of real estate a year. So hopefully today we're going to give you guys some good value. The reason behind this meeting or this class is to talk about the 3 pillars of successful real estate business. Those are relationship-based marketing, brand marketing, or other types of marketing. That would include social media. And then finally, prospecting, which is the eye of the devil. That's the one area of the business a lot of real estate agents don't want to explore because of one reason or another. And we're going to get into that today as well. So first, I'll introduce John. John's going to be, since he's the coach, he's going to be asking us some questions. We're just going to go back and forth. And then basically we'll just talk. And then at the end, this is going to be about 45 minutes long or so. At the end, we're going to take everybody's, if anyone has any questions. So John, let's talk about marketing, man.
So at the end of the day, what we're going to do here is I'm going to share some questions with Bobby and Will and let them weigh in on them. I'm going to bring up the concept. I'll weigh in on it and ship to them. Stacy Petrucci, shout out to you, Bobby's partner, because Bobby will be the first one to say he couldn't have done it without you. So I've got a buzzer here. If I disagree with anything Will or Bobby says, I'm just going to buzz them. All right.
Sounds good.
All right. So we've got 3 pillars of lead generation, as Will was saying. The first one is relationship-based leads, right? Those are people we know, referrals and repeats. Then there's marketing, and then there's prospecting, which I call the heavy lifting. And I was talking to somebody, another client just last week, and I said, we got to get back to the basics in this business with the market shift. And the basics are these 3 pillars of lead generation. Now, for my practice, and I'm going to put this out there to Will and Bobby, about 50 to 60% of my business came from that first pillar, relationship-based business, and then about 20 to 25% from marketing, and 20 to 25% of my business came from prospecting, going out there and getting business from non-relationship based sources. And Will and Bobby and I were talking about this yesterday. It's really smart to have something going on in all 3 pillars, because sooner or later, one of those pillars is going to underperform and you've got 2 more to catch it. So, Will, let's start with a referral and repeat business. And I'm gonna pose this to you. Do you agree with the statement that, and Bobby, do you agree with the statement that the entire purpose of marketing to this group is to create top of mind? And if so, how did you achieve that?
I'll speak first. Absolutely. Because anybody new in the business, or those of you that have been around a long time, we go out of our way as realtors to create trust and build trust with our clients, provide them with an excellent experience when they either buy or sell a home. But so many of us fail to stay in touch with those people. And the real currency of the people that you've already dealt with, buyers and sellers in your sphere of influence, is the business that they can send to you in the future. A real estate business is actually like a multi-level marketing business, because if you do it right and you connect with every one of your clients and then have a mechanism in place to make sure that they never forget about you and they use you again and refer you, you're going to be tapping into their sphere of influence as well. And that's where the power of all of this comes from. Right, John?
Yeah. And just a bit of footnote to that, we cannot measure, we were talking about this yesterday, we cannot measure the generational effect of a satisfied client, because they're not only going to refer us people, but then the people they refer are going to refer people, and on it goes. So when we have a situation where we're not creating that top of mind, we cut off all of that generational stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
And the definition of creating top of mind, the best one that I've ever thought of, and Will's going to make fun of me later on, we make consistent but unobtrusive contact to that audience. Consistent but unobtrusive contact. And it's not cause and effect. In other words, we don't make contact with these people and say, oh, gee whiz, I didn't get anything. That's not the purpose of touching that audience. It's pillar number 2 and 3 are cause and effect. This is not. But Bobby, you did probably 100% or close to it of your business from pillar 1 last year. So tell us how you pulled that off.
So I think I was listening to you say we're operating around probably 70, maybe 80% in that first pillar, referral and repeat. And, I think the biggest mistake that most agents make in this business is forgetting or not having the tools to go back to connect to these people. So we've worked really hard over the past few years of putting systems in place to reach back and touch these clients. I can't tell you nothing worse than, seeing a $5 million home go on the market from somebody you sold the home to, and they're now with another agent. And that has happened. I think it's probably happened to all of us, maybe not at that level, but there is nothing more frustrating than that. So what we do is we try to identify our clients and who our top clients are. Some of them, we might just be sending out a monthly email, monthly newsletter. And then we have clients that we reach out to, we pick up the phone, we're texting with, where we basically, try to treat our top clients like like they really are. They are our good friends, and to touch base with them, very frequently, and try to just stay in front of them. Always, though, everyone is in our. When we first started this, I didn't really have a very good database, and now I just make sure I get everybody into our system to reach out and touch them.
So you make a really good point there, Bobby, because you're talking about texting and reaching out. Guys, if I say anything about my practice, it's to impress a point upon you, not to impress you. And Will and Bobby are already impressed with me, so I don't have to worry about them. But at the end of the day, this is a big mistake, okay? A huge mistake. And Bobby alluded to it, and he probably doesn't realize it yet. But technology to touch this group is fine. I mean, we need to use technology, but here's the rub. We use technology oftentimes as a substitute for high touch, and that's a mistake. We need to use technology to facilitate high touch. If we've got something, techno going on, where we touch them every month via an email, newsletter, or whatever, that's fine. But that's using technology as a substitute for high touch. We need to be belly to belly with those high probability referral sources. So, Will, I know you agree with me. Could you share some of the stuff that you do in that wheelhouse to facilitate high touch?
Well, one of the main things that we're using technology-wise to facilitate high touch is our private Facebook group. We've got a private Facebook group with about 1,000 past clients and people we know, and we use it like a CRM, and we stay in touch with those people on a daily basis. It's a free tool as long as you consistently post to that group. But we've also been using a snail mail newsletter since 2001. We continue to use it. It costs us over $1,000 a month, but we use that. We're very big on calling and texting our past clients at least quarterly, just to touch base with them, reach out, see how they are, not to ask them for business, but just to reach out and see how they are. We have 2 client events a year, which is very important. And those are the main things. Because I realized very early in my career, if you don't get your arms around your sphere of influence and your past clients and stay top of mind with them, then you're going to have a paid lead dependent business. And that's not fun. One of the statistics that the National Association of Realtors released that is quite shocking is that about 92% of home buyers and sellers say that they would, the operative word here is would, use the same real estate agent if they were to move again. But statistically, John, do you know what the actual statistic is on the percentage of buyers and sellers that use the same agent again?
Yeah, I believe that according to NAR, it's probably in the wheelhouse of maybe 55 to 65%. So fully a third of people are going somewhere else, which
No,
is
John,
insane.
It's 13%.
Are using the same agent?
13, according to National Association of Realtors, 92% say they're going to use the same agent, only 13% do. And it's not because they changed their mind.
Okay.
It's not because they changed their mind. It's because there's so many distractions now with social media that there's so many databases with Zillow and Realtor.com, these third-party sites that are spending hundreds of millions of dollars collectively so that home buyers and sellers reach out to them first, and then they can refer them out and get a referral fee. That's why they spend so much money. These companies are backed by hedge funds because they can get 25 to 40% of the commission, which is a large amount of money. So it's not good enough anymore to send out an email newsletter. That's, first of all, they're garbage. Secondly, they're going to get grabbed by spam or put in promotions. You can't rely on that anymore. You have to get back to basics. You need to call and text your people. And social media, you can't rely on a business page. The algorithms, only everything you post on your business page, only you could have 1,000 followers. Less than 5% of your followers are going to see any post on a business page because Facebook wants to monetize it. So they want you to boost your posts. And when you're boosting posts, all you're doing is getting likes. And the last time I checked, they don't pay house payments. You cannot send in likes to cover your house payment or a car payment the last time I checked. So, and as we get into this new world where there's even more and more distractions with TikTok and Instagram and, it's
AI.
And AI, it's almost impossible for you to stand out unless you're making it part of your job. John made a very good comment when I was chatting with him yesterday. I mean, the business that we're actually in isn't the real estate business. It's a lead generation and lead conversion business. And real estate just happens to be the vehicle that we're using. And we're very fortunate because real estate commissions are still quite high. But the reason that 87% of realtors don't make it to their 5-year anniversary isn't because they die. It's because their paychecks get too far apart and they're forced to get another job, which is a shame. And that is usually because of pillar 3 and because of pillar 1. They're not staying in touch with the people they know and they're not prospecting. Right now, we're still talking about pillar 1, but I want to impress upon everyone. Your job should be to add people to your database every day. You meet someone and you create a connection with them. You need to have something in place so that they never forget about you.
Yeah, well, Bobby said something earlier. Bobby, I want to hand the mic to you. And you one of the things I said you probably might not have realized is that you used the C word, I think, twice. Consistency, right? Consistency. And, I will say this for you because I coach you. You're really doing an outstanding job there. You really are. And, at the end of the day, people call me old school. Well, at the end of the day, this game is still a contact sport. Don't you agree? It's a contact sport.
Yeah. We have this unusual situation where no one lives here. You speak of getting belly to belly, and we can't really get belly to belly. So we have to rely on certain tools. The number one thing, like you said, Coach, is consistency. And I mean, this thing of picking up the phone is probably the number one thing I can think of. We do some texting for clients that we're already kind of engaging with quite a bit. And then we also, mail really nice gifts to clients when we get referrals, just to keep that going. And what the number one thing that we've probably done through this whole process is just be consistent with it. I mean, I used to think this business was about being smart, but Coach taught me that wasn't the case. He said, just be consistent.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'm in big trouble. That's the case.
Our own best thinking will bury us, right?
That's right.
So, Will, I think I'm going to give everybody 3 takeaways in this first pillar, and then we'll move to marketing. How about that?
That sounds good to me.
So I think that the first big takeaway is that this first pillar, is all about creating top of mind. People fail to refer us not because they don't like us and they don't trust us. They fail to refer us because they're not thinking about us. And that's our job, is to stay top of mind. And how do we accomplish that? Underline this word, consistent, Bobby's word, but unobtrusive contact, meaning you're not going to be a pain in the ass. Okay, that's number one. Number two is that if you'll notice with Will and Bobby, they do a lot of high touch stuff, texting and calling and so forth. And a shameless plug for Will. Will's got a platform called Social Orchard, and that is a really great way to facilitate high touch via social media on Facebook. So if anybody's interested in that, give Will a shout. So the second one is that we have to stay top of mind, right? And then, the final one I think that we need to understand is that, as Will said, people aren't using their real estate agents. I had no idea that stat was that bad, and I'm a stat guy. But here's the deal. The generational effect can be devastating if you're not staying top of mind and people aren't referring you. Well, the people that they would have referred you, and then those people would have referred somebody. I mean, we go through generations of lost referrals here. It's not just losing a referral piece of business. It's losing all of that business that comes behind it. And it's devastating. Just losing one client can be devastating, and we can't even measure it. So let's talk about marketing for a second. Will mention the eye of the devil.
Real quick, John, let me add to that, just to hammer this home. Just having done this for 35 years, if you think that you're that good, that you can just help them buy a home, give them a closing gift, and send them a Christmas card or a sports calendar or something like that, or drop off an American flag on July 4th. The problem is the average person is spending 6 to 7 hours a day on their phone now. And the issue with that is that we're becoming less. I mean, we all have ADD now because of our phones. This is not like in the old days when I got in the business and Bobby got in the business, and I'm sure there's other people on here that have been in the business 20 plus years. You could sell them a house and then they wouldn't forget about you because they didn't have that many distractions in their life. And there was only a few ways that real estate agents could get into their world. Now with social media, they're on Facebook or they're on Instagram, and they're seeing other agents all the time, every day. And if you're just doing social media, which we're going to get into on Pillar 3, if you're just doing that and you don't have something in place so that they don't forget about you, and that they know that you're dependent on referrals, then your referral business is going to be very, very slim. So you have to, now it's harder than ever. The reason we started our Facebook group is because I saw what was happening. You can't just post something on Facebook and post a few recipes or, show photos of you standing in front of a house with a sold sign and think that that's going to be enough. If anything, that's repellent. People don't like seeing that, but that's an entire other class. But you have to have something in place where you're touching people at least 20 to 30 times a year if you think that they're going to come back to you in the future.
Well, that's a really good transition into the marketing when you said nobody's going to care. The marketing pillar is where the eye of the devil is, along with the third pillar called I call it heavy lifting. The marketing that we do to our sphere of influence is relationship-based marketing. That is not pillar 2. That's pillar 1. Pillar 2 is reaching out into the marketplace and compelling someone to reach out to us either via the web or, from the sign call, which are, our ancient history, and doing business with non-relationship sources. And I want to tell you a quick story and then I'll let Bobby and Will weigh in on this. So I have a client, and of course, this individual will remain nameless, who last year wanted to rent a billboard. And at the end of the day, I said, don't do that. You're going to be sorry. And why are you going to be sorry? Because you won't get a dime's worth of business. And this person said to me, "You don't understand." Okay, what don't I understand? That's not the purpose of the billboard. Okay, what's the purpose of the billboard? Well, it's to get your name and face out there, right? Now, look, we're talking like 15, 20 grand for this thing. Okay, so a year goes by, not a stitch of business. And this individual said to me very recently, I'm not going to renew it. I didn't get any business from it. And then I didn't get to say what?
I told you so.
So what we're talking about is this image and vanity advertising. So Bobby, talk to us about that type of advertising and marketing, because man, you can go broke making money in this wheelhouse, or trying to make money in this wheelhouse.
I have spent a lot of money in that area at times, and I've learned now I call them me ads, and I don't
mean hire me. I drive a Mercedes. My wife is hot. My mistress is hot.
I used to want to see myself on those banners and all that, and I just realized like that it really does nothing. What I try to do is just like, nowadays, thanks to coaches, call to action. Everything I do, we try to make sure there's a reason we're doing it. We try not to make our marketing and advertising about us. We actually try to make it more about our buyers and sellers and get away from. Now, we've done our fair share of it, but what I have done over the years is I've actually gotten with clients and asked them, they're overwhelmed by what they're seeing. And you can simply ask sellers what they like to see, and what they like to see is what's going on in the market. They like to know this whole me advertising. I don't know when it and how it all got started, but I'm even to the point now where I don't like to put my numbers out there. I don't like to post a picture of us. Look what we just did. I think I think we're moving away from that and into more back to just really old school. It's about our buyers and sellers. And my team is very focused in that right now. We've gotten really away from all that. Look at me advertising, and more of how can we help you? How can we help our clients?
Well, I love what Will said a little bit ago. Nobody cares, right? Well, nobody cares about how great we are. It's like it's got to be about them, as Bobby just pointed out, right?
If I can add to one thing, so a lot of real estate agents in here right now, because I see it, they post pictures of themselves in front of houses with a sold sign. They post on Facebook or Instagram talking about how many showings they had, how many offers they had. You're sending two messages by doing that. Now, if you want to post your sales, addresses, whatever, pictures of yourself with a client and a sold sign on your business page, that's fine. But the minute you start making social media posts talking about this house came on the market and 2 days later we had it sold, we had 48 showings, we had 16 offers, what you're doing is you're telling sellers that it's too easy and they don't need you. And you can argue with me all day. You're telling sellers that they don't need you, because if a seller sees a social media post of a house in wherever, and you're saying that you had 48 showings or 62 showings and 19 offers or 12 offers or whatever number of offers over one, they're thinking in their mind, well, I might not get 48 showings if I put it on Zillow, or I might not get 19 offers, but I'll get one and I can save $20,000. So that's what they're thinking. The other message that you're sending when you're putting multiple offers and multiple offer situation and all of this stuff, you're telling buyers to give up. You're basically telling buyers, people that know you on social media who want to buy a house, you're basically saying to them, don't bother, because we had 48 showings and 19 offers. Most people, that makes their heart squeeze, because it's overwhelming to think that I'll have no chance of getting a house, right? So if we're telling sellers that they don't need us because they can sell it themselves, if we can get 19 offers and they can get 2, I think everyone would agree with me on that. And then we're telling buyers that don't bother trying to look at this house because we had 48 parties through and 19 offers. Those are the messages that we're sending. And we need to be really careful about that.
Well, I wanted to address something because I see that on social media all the time. And this is really important because social media is pillar two. It's a form of marketing. And I feel very strongly about this, and I'd like Bobby and you to weigh in on it. I believe that cause and effect in social media is highly unlikely. Like, okay, you post on social media and somebody's going to call you. But I think it's a fabulous tool for shepherding your audience, mainly the people you know. But cause and effect on social media isn't going to happen. And I hear all of the time, hey, Sally down the hall is killing it on social media. Okay, well, what does that mean exactly? So, Bobby, I know you, and Mark's on the call rather. You do a really good job at shepherding your sphere on social media, but you're not doing a whole lot of cause and effect stuff. Is that fair to strangers?
Yeah, no, I've just just recently, well, I don't know, just recently, but for a while I've been evolving it and changing it. I think the challenge here, in my opinion, is that we've got to, we're seeing our competitors do it. And so look what I just did, look at it sold. And so I think there's a fine line of how do you present this to where you still look like you're busy. And I think, probably depending on your market, your clients, I think you kind of got to meld it a little bit, maybe I had to meld it more into my personality and who I am as a person as well. I still want to say we're selling and we're doing a great job, but I knew I had to change it because I started to see social media was just overwhelmed with look at me. And frankly, I feel kind of bad about it because I really started it in our area a long time ago on Facebook. I mean, so I was one of the first people that were doing it that I know in our market. And then as I started seeing people do it, I started realizing we had to take this in another direction. So what I personally started doing, and when I post those sales or whatever, is I post it about the seller, like that they did an amazing job. That check out the pictures, the updates on their furnishings, they painted the room. And I talk about things. I even have gone as far as to talk about their business. Hey, they have a flooring company in Santa Rosa Beach. Make sure you check them out. By the way, the floors in this home were amazing. And again, getting the spotlight off of us and onto our buyers and sellers when we're announcing a sale. So it doesn't look at me. I've noticed that people in my social media seem to like that a lot better than the look at me type marketing.
Well, exactly right. And Will, you brought up a great point earlier. When I look at my clients' business pages, and you guys are just like, top guns, and I see the engagement on their business pages, and there are exceptions. Okay, there are exceptions, but at the end of the day, the engagement on business pages is pretty poor, onesie, twosie, right? Maybe threesie. When I look at your Facebook group, I mean, I think you've gotten as much as 50 pieces of engagement on that group. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, we get 20 to 70 or 80 comments because Facebook groups are common interest groups, and Facebook encourages Facebook groups because they just want to keep us on the platform. We're not the customer, we're the product. The customer are the advertisers. So Facebook with groups, especially during COVID, they try to get people to join common interest groups, whatever it is that you're interested in, because they knew that then you'd use their platform to engage with the people that you care about, that you had a common interest with. So if a real estate agent or a loan officer creates a private Facebook group, then they get to benefit from the same analytical tools that are provided to other companies that use Facebook groups. And it's just a great way. Facebook encourages groups because they know that if you've got some connection that you can keep people on the platform because of what it is that you're saying or doing, then they're going to be able to show them more ads. So they're going to encourage they're going to encourage your group. There's 600 million groups, I think, something like that. 2.7 billion people are actively using Facebook each day. The other thing that I found very interesting, every Fortune 500 company, every hospital, every university, they all use Facebook groups to communicate with their people because it's more of a communication tool. So if you think about Facebook groups that you're in, conversations, a lot of bantering and arguing, it happens within a Facebook group, and you simply can't duplicate it on their two other products, which are the business page and the personal page. So that's something that you might want to look into creating as a private Facebook group, as a community group. And ours is amazing. I mean, that's
probably one of the most brilliant things that I've seen in all of what we've talked about here is this Facebook group that you've done. It's amazing. I know another local group that has done it in our market, and these two agents had no business, and they created a group along 30A, and they are killing it right now. And they told me the other day that it was simply out of creating a group that they drew people to. It's a great, if you did nothing in social media but this would be highly recommended.
And there's two different types of groups. The type of group that Bobby's talking about, I mean, it's the same type of group, but the topic is, if you create a group around an area, like Bobby would say, like, he's in a resort community. So if someone creates a Facebook group there about things to do in that community, and people join it because they want to, like, there's Marco Island, Florida, where we go quite often. There's a group, and basically people from all over the country join this group because it talks about what's happening on the island, things to do on the island, political things that are changing on the island, and people join it. And there's realtors within the group, and a lot of these groups are backed by real estate agents, and they don't say anything ever. Whenever a real estate need comes up, then they message the people. That's pretty much the way that it works. Our group is about our past clients and our sphere. So we invited our past clients and sphere so that we could use it as a CRM. So if you want to create a community group, that's an excellent thing. If you're in a resort community or an area that has a lot of running or biking or other activities, then that's a really good tool. But ours, we use it for our past clients and our sphere to stay in touch with them. So a couple different ways that you can do it.
Yes. So I'm watching the time here, and we should probably transition into pillar 3.
Let's do that.
Three takeaways here in this wheelhouse. Number one is you can go broke trying to make money in this pillar. You really can. One thing that we didn't talk about, and I intentionally didn't bring it up because it's also a pillar 3 phenomenon. In this pillar, if you're going to lead generate, you better have good conversion skills, because that's another way to go broke. You create all these leads. It doesn't matter how good they are if your conversion skills are marginal. And then the third thing is be thoughtful about image and vanity advertising. Will said it best. Nobody cares. Okay. So, all people care about is what's in it for them.
I said what you shouldn't do, but what you should be doing, here's a constructive piece. Go on Google and Google the top questions that buyers and sellers have. Then you can go down to the answers, and you can go down into the answers, and you click where it says suggested answers, and you keep clicking, it'll drop more and more and more. Take the answers that you get, create videos around those questions. So one good thing to do as a realtor, you're going to a home inspection, talk about, how to pick a good home inspector, talk about the ways to write a good offer. The questions that buyers and sellers have where you can be informative, try to make your social media content around answering questions that consumers have, and then also answering questions around what people can do in your area. So if you become the resource around what people can do in your area, dog parks, running trails, biking trails, ice cream stores, if your content's around great things to do in your area and the problems that can occur in real estate transactions, and you're providing content on how to solve those problems, though you don't have to talk about sales anymore. You can just become an expert and use social media as a way to leverage it.
Greg Gualtieri is not on the call, but he does an excellent job with that. So let's talk about the third pillar, which is one that nobody does. And I have to give a shout out to Thomas Domasic. He's on the call. This guy is a rock star in this wheelhouse. And I taught him everything he knows. No, Thomas, I'm joking. I didn't teach you everything. But Thomas is the master of expired listings. And, it's interesting because when you look at this pillar, we were talking about this yesterday, and it's called heavy lifting, prospecting. What is that? It's for sale by owners, expired listings, circle prospecting, demographic prospecting, on it goes. There's no shortage of things that we can do in this wheelhouse. And most of the time, the paradox is that this is a now paycheck, especially with expires and FSBOs. This audience has already raised their hands. And I have heard time and again, there's no FSBOs, there's no FSBOs, there's no expires. There's no expires, there's no expires, there's no expires. Well, maybe you ought to talk to Thomas about that, because he's found where they are. If I had a little bit of a spirited debate with somebody just today, and I said, how many expires are in your marketplace? And the person said, I don't have to even check if there are none. And I said, just indulge me, right? October 1st, year to date, how many expires and withdrawals in your primary marketplace? And it was like 700, right? 700. Look, even if 80% of those aren't any good, you're still left with quite a number there. So, the question that begs answering is, why do agents look at this pillar like leprosy? I mean, they don't even want to go near it. They won't commit to it. If they do commit to it, they will commit to it for 5 minutes. And, Will and Bobby, I think we lost Bobby on the call here, Will.
I think he's back.
Are you back? Oh, there he is. You're off top there. Now you're in the middle. Yeah, but we all had to do this in our careers, and this area is predominantly about lead conversion, because people say, well, all these other people are calling them too. Guess what? We can be better than all of those other people. We can be better, guys. I was joking earlier with someone and said, a lot of these speakers, a lot of people in my chair get up and talk about prospecting, and they've never knocked on a flipping door in their lives, right?
Right.
They've never picked up the phone in their lives. Is it hard? Look, I didn't love it and I didn't hate it. It was just necessary. So, Will, I want to ask you first, why do you believe agents avoid this pillar like the plague?
For the same reason that they won't walk into a restaurant without a shirt on. Even though you walk into a restaurant without a shirt on, nothing will happen other than someone will give you a weird look. If you walked out...
Beach. I've seen Bobby do it, but go ahead. I'm sorry.
My point is that the vast majority of humans are fine doing uncomfortable things, like walk into a restaurant. And I was watching this guy on Instagram yesterday, and he does this psychological avoidance therapy, and he put popcorn in his beard because he was so concerned about what people thought that it was crushing his life. Became an obsession. So in order to break it, his therapist, and he was putting this on social media, he made him walk into a Walmart with popcorn in his beard, just because it made him like he was just having a full-on anxiety attack. And at the end of the day, he walked around for 10 minutes. Few people looked at him weird, and he's looking at his phone saying nothing happened. Well, that's the same reason that people won't pick up a phone and call a for sale by owner. The worst thing that can happen in our business, if you talk to somebody you don't know about buying or selling a home, is that they can yell at you at the top of their lungs and call you names. That is the absolute worst thing. Hanging up on you isn't that bad, but the worst thing they can do is call you names and scream at you. But that's no different than if you stood up and started doing jumping jacks without a t-shirt on at a Applebee's. Nothing's going to happen. You're not breaking the law. People are going to just look at you weird, but that's enough to stop most people from doing it. And in our business, the reason that 87% of real estate agents don't make it to their 5-year anniversary isn't because they die. It's because their paychecks get too far apart, because they can't rely solely on pillar 1 and 2. Pillar 3 is the quickest way to a paycheck. Pillar 3 is the reason by 25 years old, I was selling 60 homes a year. I chose for sale by owners, but I was talking to somebody a couple of days ago. They've been calling old expireds, and basically they'll call up an expired listing from 2019 and they'll say, hey, noticed that your house was on the market a few years ago. I'm trying to create a list of off-market properties because there's nothing for sale. And I was wondering if you had any plans on moving at some point in the future. He got no one yelling at him. He got the phone numbers from RedX, and he started creating an off-market list of properties. Then he went on Facebook and he started running an ad for people to sign up for a list of off-market properties. So he got the potential listings, but then he ended up turning into potential buyer leads as well, all because he was willing to pick up the phone. Calling a for sale by owner. John and I have a mutual friend, Steve Williams, who's about 62, and he still calls for sale by owners, and the guy makes $1.5 million a year in Florida as well. He still calls FSBOs, and he'll call them up and say, hey, I noticed you got your house on the market for sale. I'm not calling about listing it, but are you cooperating with agents? And then he'll just try to schedule an appointment to go look at it. And then he'll say, by the way, if you want, I'll do an audit of your Zillow ad, and I'll tell you if you should change anything, they'll maybe get you some more engagement. So he just comes from a place of helping them, and then he just hangs around long enough until they decide they want to sell. Because not all FSBOs are doing it to save money. Some of them are doing it because they had a bad experience with a realtor. Some of them are doing it because they're do-it-yourselfers. Some of them are doing it because it's a competition and they want to prove to themselves that they can do what a realtor can do, right? So as long as you find out the type of seller they are ahead of time and work with them on that and don't talk them out of it, at some point they're still going to probably they're either going to be able to give you their buyers, or they're going to have you manage the transaction. But it all comes down to being willing to do uncomfortable things. And another guy I listened to, he used to be a lumberjack in Alaska. He had to carry a 70-pound chainsaw, and he got into real estate. Now he makes a 7-figure income selling houses. He said every morning he had to drag that chainsaw into the woods and cut down trees. Now the worst thing that can happen now is maybe someone will hang up on him. So in this market, houses are continuing to sell. And this pillar number 3, which is basically direct getting in front of people that want to move or may want to move, it's the most uncomfortable, yet the most profitable and the most instantly rewarding.
Absolutely. Well, I'm watching the time. I just want to pass the baton to Bobby before we open up for questions. You know, Bobby, you and I are always joking that I feel that scripts and dialogues have their place, but asking the right questions in the right order is far more important. And I really do believe that agents have this fear. And part of it, Will, is because they are not supremely prepared. And the statement is that supreme preparedness produces supreme confidence. And I just wanted to ask Bobby if you found that that's true in your wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we obviously have to be prepared as far as like going back to like when you're cold calling, or, you know, I come from a period of time where we had to, you know, it was just a different way of doing it. We had to have, if I had an open house, I would go door to door, knock on the doors, invite people. But yeah, I've always, you know, relied on being prepared. When I moved back from California, Coach remembers that very well. I mean, we were destitute. I mean, we were literally like, you know, the thought of doing an expired back then for me, I don't know. I didn't want to do any of that stuff. And yet, when I look back at all of it, I don't have to do it now. But then again, I could never pass a property for sale by owner and not call it. I can't. That's not even in my DNA these days. I have to call it. So, you know, going back to what Will was saying, as far as, you know, how do you get to this place where you want to get your business on track? And the easiest answer, again, is pillar 3, expireds. I mastered them. I don't do them any longer, but I will tell you, once you do a few of them, you get hung up on a few times, get used to getting yelled at a little bit. When you get a rhythm for them, you can make a lot of money. As a matter of fact, I started learning that people appreciated the phone call, and it actually, you know, I'm always at the point too in life too, if I don't do 3 or 4 things every day that make me uncomfortable, then I'm not making money. So I haven't yet, because of this meeting today, I haven't been uncomfortable yet today. So when we get off the phone today, I will go do a few things today that'll make me uncomfortable in that prospecting category. I can't go, you know, I've traveled all over the world with some friends that were heavy into prospecting. One of them did prospecting in a third world country in a rainforest. He found an internet cafe and he got out there and did his prospecting. You have to make prospecting just part of your day. Even if you can only handle 2 hours of it, you have to do it every day.
So Will, again, I'm watching the time. I see that there's some questions in the queue. If you can.
If anyone has any questions, please type them in the chat and then we're going to answer them, because we've got 30 people on here. If I unmute everybody, it's going to end up be reverbing back and forth. So we'll do it that way. So Misty Kinney asked, can you go over the part about the expired listings and how you get to the point of creating a list of off-market properties? Excellent question. So basically, with the expired listings, the best expired listings to call are older ones. So you have to do a little prep work. And by the way, I'm going to add to what John said about being supremely prepared. The way you become supremely prepared is by doing it and screwing up. You don't become a world-class runner by waiting until you think you can run a 2-hour marathon. You have to run a lot slower for a lot shorter distance and be out of breath before, and you work towards that. And in our business, again, guys, there's so many real estate agents that are making a boatload of money. And the only difference between them and the ones that aren't making a boatload of money, it's not because of where they were born or the way they look or the college they went to. It's about they are willing to take time out of their day and prospect and call people or text people and reach out to people who may or may want to sell a house or buy a house at some point in the future and get themselves an appointment and then move on to their other things. And they don't let anything else get in that way. Because if you, anywhere in the country, if you sell 50 homes a year, which is one a week, you can support your family. Now, if you're in Bobby's area, then you're making $2 million a year or $1.5 million a year on 50 transactions. In my market, you're still making a couple of $100,000 a year, which is enough in our market. So if you're willing, to sell one home a year, all you've got to do is get 2 or 3 appointments a week. And as long as you're nice to people and you're coming from a place of abundance, there's no reason why you can't turn those into 50 transactions. So the expireds, I would just call them up and say, hey, I noticed that your house was on the market 3 years ago, 2 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago, and it didn't sell. Believe it or not, the market's active right now. There's a desperate shortage of inventory. Had you thought at all about putting the house back on the market? The reason I'm calling you, there's nothing for sale. We've got buyers, and I'm just trying to find some inventory. So I thought I'd see if you had any plans on moving. They're going to say yes or no or maybe. If they say your goal is to either get an appointment or an email address, because if you get their email address and you plug them into a system where you drip on them once a week, either a home search or whatever it is, then you're going to bring those people into your world. So that's the way you get. And if you make enough of those calls, you're going to get people saying, oh my God, I was actually getting ready to call a realtor this week. You will get those. So you have to work towards the no. You can't be stressed out with the no's, waiting for a yes. You have to assume you're going to get a no, because the odds are the more no's you get, you're going to get a yes. And it depends on how badly you want to get ahead in life, because it does work. Then you just tell those people, I'm going to have an off-market list of properties. And then you put that list together and then you run an ad on Facebook saying, fill out this form to get a list of off-market properties. And then that's how you do it. I mean, it's not rocket science.
So what I was going to add to that expired listing, I always had success, obviously, calling them like Will was saying, and a letter, follow up with a letter that same day, the letter hits them. And then if you want to get the listing, try to get in front of that person. Those 3 things. Sometimes we can't get the third one, but the second one, a call and a letter, and maybe even a follow-up call, that'll surely get the expired listing. If you can meet them, it's a guaranteed home run, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna unmute everybody. Does anyone have any? If anyone has any questions, then since we've got 5 minutes left, just go ahead and ask us what your questions are, and we'll answer them, because nobody's typing anything in the box. Someone has to have some question of some kind. Humor me.
Will, I liked what you said with, not posting so much of the just you in front of the house with the sold sign, because I'm very, very guilty of that. But then, Bobby, you kind of added on how, you can post that, but as long as you're making it more about the client themselves. I mean, what's your 2 cents, Will, on, posting that, but making it less of oh, I sold another house. Look what I did. Look what I did,
Well, I think the problem is we feed social media is a whole situation of everybody validating everybody. So that's what the whole thing is with the like button. The comments are just validating, or they're tearing someone down. But let's stick with the validating at this point. I just think that think about something that happened in that sale and how it would be useful to somebody else. This owner, I encouraged them to paint their purple walls white, and we got and we sold the house right away. Put something in there that's going to be valuable to the public that they can learn from, that would make their experience better. Not have it just be about, look at me, I sold a house in a day. I think we need to stop saying how many offers and how many showings we had immediately, because I'm telling you, it's making homeowners want to sell their own houses and think it devalues us. It's one of the reasons that commissions are shrinking, and it also scares buyers off.
Yeah, I just want to interject here, Will, on this topic. And I wrote it to myself because I think we ought to do on a future call this whole area of social proof, right? How to garner reviews, how to use them, where to put them, and so forth. And at the end of the day, if you have somebody else tell your story on these types of cards, it's far better. Will was fantastic. He listened to everything that we had to say, and we wouldn't hesitate to refer him. That is a lot better than look at me. And it carries a lot of power with it. But, people see social proof is the most persuasive medium on the planet cross-culturally. If you're going to buy anything of consequence, I just bought a generator for the house here because we live in Florida, right? And boy, did I look at the reviews, you betcha. So, inserting some social proof into this stuff makes it about the audience, right? We looked at this is what Will did for us, and it's not Will bragging on himself, it's somebody else bragging on Will. So we need to be prudent about the use of social proof because we don't use it. We don't, not to its fullest extent. I have a question for Thomas before I hang up. Thomas, do you mind if I ask you a question?
Sure, it doesn't mean I'm going to answer it, but go ahead.
So I made the comment, that Will said it, pillar 3 is the eye of the devil. Thomas is amazingly disciplined in his approach to pillar 3. It's in his schedule each and every day. And, Thomas, the question that I'm going to ask you is a general question. You're obviously supremely prepared for every one of these calls out to expires. And so could you just share with everybody what kind of preparation have you done in the past to create this confidence? You do a lot of things, right? And you've done a lot of things in the past to get to this place. So share with everybody what things they can do to be supremely prepared and then be supremely confident like you are on these calls.
I think mindset is about 90% of it. You have to make sure that you go in with the right expectations into these calls. Just like Will said, it's like being a runner. You cannot run a marathon, right away. So you have to understand that you're gonna start stumbling basically when you call these people. I think everybody that fails at it starts calling, and literally within 3 or 4 days they give up. It took me probably about, I would say, 5 years to get really good at it, And it takes some people months, some people it will take weeks, some people it will take years. You really can't tell, when you're going to really click in and when you're going to become really good at it. So everybody's different. There are reasons why everybody's different. And I think you just have to go at it no matter what,
Yeah, tell everybody the name of your boat, which sits in Lake Michigan overlooking the skyline of Chicago. What's the name of your boat?
Perseverance. So it's and people ask me that all the time, like what's the reason for the name? And I go, well, you just can't give up that quickly. And I think most people that start these calls, they make a few extra phone calls and they think, well, it doesn't work. No, it does work. Everything works. Even billboard advertising works. It just, you have to do a whole lot of it. And you have to do it for a long time. Mailouts work. You just have to do you have to spend a ton of money before they work. The same thing with this sort of system. It works, You just have to basically keep at it, and you have to be very consistent with it. You cannot prospect, a day or two and then expect, call 13 expireds and expect that you're going to sell $1 million worth of homes. It doesn't work in any market, basically. So you got to do a ton of it, a ton of follow-up, a ton of calls. You got to be consistent with it. If you're trying to call these people, half an hour a day, don't even try it, because it's like trying to prepare for marathon.
Thomas, not to interrupt, but to interject, because I know you well. Thomas has great control over his expenses. I'm not going to put him on the spot, but I mean, the dude does serious expired business every year. And what I will tell you is that it doesn't cost him a ton of money. Is that fair, Thomas?
Yeah. It's probably the cheapest way, to get business. Every call that I make is worth $205, basically. That's how I broke it down. So.
I agree with you about the billboards if you're Coca-Cola, and you could, you could spend $1 million. But, it just occurred to me again, that third pillar is a quick commission check, and it also costs nothing to do. It's amazing. So anyway, Will, you want to wrap this up today?
Yeah, I hope everybody got a lot of value out of this. We try to give you some specifics. Bottom line is this: figure out everybody in your life that could be a client for you in the future. Get them all together in some sort of a database. You need to reach out to them as often as you possibly can, consistently. And then in pillar 2, you need to be, you can avoid pillar 2. You really need 1 and 3. And 2 is if you want to do pillar 2, that's fine. But if you're going to avoid any of them, avoid 2, but you got to do 1 and 3. Do you agree, John? Those are like a must.
I do. Especially for younger agents, in the business, you don't have a lot of money to spend on pillar 2. And so at the end of the day, until you have the resources to fund that, because I made the comment earlier, in pillar 2, you can go broke trying to make money. You
right.
Be careful.
Like I'll give you an example. I mail out postcards to 1,680 families every 2 weeks in my zip code. And these are people that are over 50 years old, make over $100,000 a year, and have been in their house at least 5 years. But I committed to 2 years to do that, right? And it's going to be a lot of money, but it's a large enough pool, and it's in my town where I know I'll get business from it. But when I was new and I had no money, all I did was call for sale by owners and expireds. And everyone in my office at the time said they didn't do it. And I did it, and I stuck with it. And, I'm still here after 35 years.
You know what? I'll throw in real quick as we wrap up. My secret formula, really, to all of this, work 40 hours a week.
The whole 40.
Yeah,
well, most of us are working half days, 7 to 7, and then Saturday and Sunday, right?
Right.
I don't know.
All right, guys. Thank you. Hope you found this valuable. I'll post this recording in our Social Orchard Facebook group. We have a Facebook group. It's called How to Grow Your Referral Business. You can look that up, Social Orchard. I'm going to post it there. And then I'll also send it out to those of you who are part of our Social Orchard network. I'll send it out. And then John will have it for his coaching clients.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for coming. We appreciate you.
Yep. Thank you very much, everyone.